This is Bloomberg Businessweek with Carol Massar and Tim Stenovec on Bloomberg Radio.
Well, I'm not going to lie. Mike and I are actually enjoying our holiday wine over here, Mike. Yeah. And our next guest, our listeners are actually very familiar with him, who I'm pleased to say is back with us, Yannick Benjamin, sommelier and co-founder of Wine on Wheels. This is an organization that works to help with people across all forms of disability. And of course, this is something close to his heart. While a car accident left Yannick paralyzed 2 decades ago, he still was able to pursue his dreams to attend college and become a sommelier. He also he and partners opened Contento, a restaurant in New York, and he also joins us on Zoom from New York City to discuss raising money and awareness for people with disabilities, as well as holiday wines. Thanks so much for joining us again, Yannick. It's always great having you here. How are you?
Very good, and thank you for having me, and happy holidays.
Yes, so our listeners know you very well because you've been here so many times. But for those who are listening for the first time, who don't know your backstory, please tell us and walk us through kind of how you got to where you are now.
Yeah, very quickly. I'm second generation restaurateur. My parents are from France, so they came to New York. My father came here in 1963, and he worked at a restaurant called La Grenouille, and I basically followed his footsteps, and I just stayed on that path. Wine is just a real deep passion of mine. I was very fortunate to work at some really great restaurants. And at the age of 25 years old, unfortunately, I was in a car accident that left me paralyzed from the waist down. But I really never allowed that to deter me of my dream of actually having my own restaurant and wine store. It took a while, but if it's endurable, then endure it, right? If you can endure it, then
right.
Just keep pushing through it. And so, a couple of years ago, I was able to open up a restaurant called Contento in East Harlem, and it's wine centric. And then just last year, I opened up a wine store actually in the very same building that I was born and raised in. My parents live right above it. So it's a real family affair. So I'm very fortunate. I'm grateful. Sure, there have been some difficult moments in my life, but I think that applies to everybody else. And I was very lucky to be surrounded by some great people to continue to pursue my passion.
That's great. Really quite an inspirational story. And as Jess mentioned, we are enjoying some wine to get in the
yes.
mood here. So Jess, I don't usually drink on the job. Hardly ever, we'll say. All right.
We have to throw that out there, guys.
Yeah.
This isn't what we only have a little over a half hour left of the program.
But it is
here
risky,
we go.
though. So
it is risky.
If you hear some snoring, just throw
right.
something at me.
I definitely will.
Get me back. But Yannick, I'm going to confess, I'm not a real expert on wine. I love it. I know what I like.
I love wine.
You love
I love wine, but I wouldn't call myself an expert.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's such it's kind of a loaded topic.
It
because,
is.
you I know what I like, but I don't really know how to describe it. I look at the list on the menu, and my strategy is always get the second cheapest one. You never want to get the cheapest, but I go second cheapest.
What is that? You told us earlier you're like Michael the cheapskate Regan.
All right, fine.
Anyway, I digress.
But Yannick, how's sort of your for dummies explanation of how a guy like me can at least look smart when he's ordering a bottle of wine? Like, where do I need to start? What do I need to know to start?
Yeah, well, I would say, you have to take the Socratic method, right? Just ask away. I think people are often too afraid to ask questions because they're afraid of being perceived as being dumb or clueless. And I think that's the worst approach, And I think here in New York City, we are one of the great wine capitals of the world. There's New York, there's Hong Kong, there's London, there's Paris. And certainly New York has so many great restaurants, so many great wine stores. There's no shortage of it. So it's just a matter of finding that right space where you can go into, where you feel comfortable, and you just ask away. No one is going to ever expect you to know the difference between Chenin Blanc or Riesling or Cabernet Sauvignon and Merlot. But, there's nothing wrong with asking as many questions as you can, because that's the only way you're going to ever learn. And unfortunately, through this process, through this journey that you go through in wine, you're going to get wines that maybe don't suit your palate, but that's the whole purpose. And that's what makes it fun. And then eventually you start to really discover what you like and what you don't like, and what flavors suit you and what other flavors don't suit you. And then that's the really key. The key is not to be afraid to put yourself out there and just being able to enjoy the journey. And that's the beauty of wine, because wine, it's not just about, grape juice that ferments into this beautiful product, but it's about history, it's about geology, it's about geography, and all these wonderful stories. And that's the beauty. And this is why I love wine so much. And that's why I love to share it with people such as yourselves.
I just want to point out that Yannick was just awarded Best Sommelier of the Year by Michelin Guide. So tell us,
I'll drink to that.
I know. Let's cheers to that, right? But
thank you.
Of course. So tell us about these latest holiday wines that you're introducing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I chose 3 wines that these are wines that I think that really over deliver for the price. And these are wines that we actually carry at the wine store at Beaupierre Wines and Spirits. So the first one right over here is just one of my favorites. It's Michel Gonnet. It retails for about $50. It's purely Chardonnay through and through. It's all grown on pure chalk soils. And this is a wine that ages for up to 3 years before it's actually even released out into the market. And it's a wine that's complex. It's enjoyable. It goes well with food. I think people make the mistake into thinking that champagne is only something that you open to when you're celebrating. But no. There's nothing better than to have a great dish, even something as simple as fried chicken. Fried chicken and champagne go so well together. Sushi, you name it. Champagne is one of the most versatile wines that you can actually pair with different types of food. So I highly recommend it. Just don't limit yourself to holidays. You can do a lot with champagne. So this is why I chose this, because of the creaminess, because of the complexity, the length of finish that it has. It's just really beautiful.
We should have got some fried chicken too.
I know, that would be so
You
great.
should have gotten some fried chicken. I should have told you. So that's my mistake. I should have sent over some fried chicken.
I love fried chicken. This is great.
How about what goes good with turkey? I'm making turkey on Christmas.
Oh yeah, actually, so I'll skip around for a second. This over here is made by a really dear friend of mine and really just an incredible talent. His name is Edouard Parinet, and he's out in the Beaujolais region in France. And this is a grape called Gamay. And this goes perfectly well with turkey. Especially if you're doing this is a red wine right here. Yeah, for sure. And this is what I would highly recommend. It goes well with the cranberry sauce. It goes well with the stuffing. When you're talking about turkey, oftentimes you have a mosaic of different ingredients that are happening all at once. So this is something that I would highly recommend right over here. This is from a place called Moulin à Vent. Edouard Parinet, he owns the property. It's called Chateau du Moulin à Vent. And I absolutely love these wines. It's all grown on pure granite soils. And just a real flavorful wine that has, again, a lot of depth and a lot of personality to itself.
I love that. I also like some of the a little bit sweeter wines like a Riesling, but what kind of suggestions do you have someone on that kind of spectrum of wine?
So if you can't find a Riesling, I would certainly recommend the grape called Chenin Blanc, which I absolutely adore. And this is a grape that you primarily find in the northern part of France, in the Loire Valley, places like Vouvray and all that. And they are actually incredibly affordable, generally speaking. They range a really good Chenin Blanc, ranges from anywhere from about $25 to $40. So I highly recommend that. It's absolutely delightful. And then if you wanted something a bit more drier, I have over here, there's a place called Galicia. So it's all the way in the northwestern part of Spain. It's called the Green Spain, and I absolutely love this part. And this is a grape called Albarino. And Albarino is, again, high acid, salty, fresh. It's got notes of peach and green apple and orchard fruits. It's really a really spectacular wine that's also incredibly versatile. And that's why I chose these 3 wines, because of its versatility. But just like Riesling and just like Chenin Blanc, it does have that same versatility too. And that's to me what a great wine is, right? You have the ability to pair it with different ingredients, but also for different occasions. And this is made by a winemaker named Roger Mendez, along with his partner Alberto Orte. And I think they're making some lovely wine. Spain is definitely on the up and up, without a doubt. Some great wines.
I was going to say, I love the Spanish Reds. I feel like they're underrated.
Yes.
The people catching on?
Very much so. Very much so.
Yannick, we'll have to leave it here, but we always love having you with us. Yannick Benjamin, sommelier and co-founder of Wine on Wheels. Always a great conversation. Mike, I don't know about you, but since we are based here in New York City, I always love the holidays because of these, when you look at the holiday displays at a number of stores and the lights everywhere in Manhattan. I love it.
I do. I love walking down Fifth Avenue around the holidays. But Jess, I got to say, as a Jersey guy, everybody knows Fifth Avenue is so done.
Oh, I was waiting to see what you were going to say.
If you want to know where the real holiday shopping is, it's in Elizabeth, New Jersey, at the Mills at Jersey Gardens.
That's
Am I
right. You are right. And for some background here on our next guest, who is John Carter, Chief Executive Officer at Parker 3D, he actually recently opened his largest creation to date, a you have to see it to understand pop-up shop called Go Pixel Yourself at, like Mike was mentioning, the Mills at the Jersey Gardens Mall. So it's a right. I'm fascinated to hear more about this, but a bit from what I understand is it's a photo-ready, interactive, 6 million pixel digital experience that costs, watch this, $3 million, Mike, to put together. Wow. So John is here on Zoom from the Mills at the Jersey Gardens Mall in Elizabeth, New Jersey. John, thanks for joining us all the way from over there. You're not too far, just across the Hudson over there. But first off, just kind of set the scene for us and walk our listeners through what you've built here.
Well, I mean, I used to design all of the New York City Christmas windows, as you had mentioned, and I loved Mike's intro. We had always wanted to do something close to home. We've worked all over the world. We've worked in Dubai, we've worked in Shanghai, we've worked in London. We've done large mall decor everywhere. And, as a kid, I would walk into these windows and you'd see them, and it was behind the glass. Well, we're inviting people inside the glass, so you can see where I am here. If you're watching on YouTube, you're basically in an animated Christmas window, so you get to live inside of it. And we have 10 different photo ops in here, and it automatically comes into your email. We print a photo for people who like a printed photo. And there's also all kinds of original artwork here to pose with. And in fact, there's the inside of a 747 for the beginning of your journey.
Yeah, I advise if anyone's listening to radio, get to YouTube.
Yes,
and
right
look
now.
At this thing John has created. I'm speechless, John. It's like
it's amazing.
Insane. It's awesome. But John, I'm wondering. When Jess and I were talking about this earlier, when I walked down Fifth Avenue this year, it felt a little more over the top than usual.
It did.
And I look at your thing, and I'm like, over the top. This is over the top of the top.
Right.
In Elizabeth, New Jersey. Has this whole idea of creating these great holiday displays, has it been ratcheted up in recent years?
I think it has. I mean, I remember when I started doing them, which I am, it's probably 20 years ago I started doing these. We started making it so you could touch the glass and things would interact, but it's gone further than that now. I mean, today we create the digital video that goes in the back of the Bloomingdale's windows. So those windows are changing constantly. And I think going down the road, you're going to see even more innovations and still keeping a little bit of tradition. If you look behind me, you see all kinds of radical video and whatnot, but there's a sense of tradition about it. And I think if we can hang on to that tradition, but we can also, believe it or not, explore AI and augmented reality and virtual reality, I think that's where we're going to see this going, because you can't avoid those technologies, but I think we can learn to experience them in a more friendly way.
John, whenever I think of malls, especially in the wake of COVID and how much pressure they were going under when everyone's under lockdown, obviously as we come out of COVID, set the scene for us as far as what it looks like and the people that are there right now for the holidays. Because even just a year ago, it still felt like we weren't quite back yet, right? Like I even had COVID on Christmas a year ago. What do things look like now? Because it seems like we're back to normal, right?
I had to really fight to close this space right now. And I don't know if you can hear it from there, but it sounds like we're in MetLife Stadium. It's just a mob scene out there. And so I think, many of the younger shoppers are feeling like they want an experience, not just a product. And when they come to the mall, you see them with their cameras up and they're experiencing people and they're experiencing displays. And they're buying things, but it's all part of an experience, especially the Gen Z. There have been some articles about Gen Z, like specifically saying, I want to buy things in person. I want to talk to a person. I want to try it on. So there's almost been a backlash. It's a novelty to come to a shopping center now, and it shows. Just you can barely walk out there.
Yeah, Jen, I was going to ask you, how much does sort of the selfie Instagram influence have now on your work?
it has a lot of influence. I mean, I've been doing all kinds of sculpture. I did street art. I did environmental sculpture installations. And I think the fact that people now have cameras and they want to capture something gives us a new way to look at it. It used to be you went to a museum and you paid an admission and you just looked at things. But now people want to photograph. And if you go to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, you're not even allowed to photograph. So here we encourage you to photograph. So I think that has definitely changed the way people interact with things. And I think people also expect now, because of the internet, which, you know, think of how young the internet is, people want to interact. So there's going to come a time in the very near future here where you will take a picture and AI will make you into something else. They'll make you into the Statue of Liberty. They'll make you into the Sphinx. So it's way more interactive than just looking at something.
John, talk to us about the business and costs behind putting something this gigantic all together for a holiday season.
Well, I mean, you know, we used to do, you know, the windows soup to nuts, and those are always at least 6 figures, occasionally 7. I still do mall holidays all over the world, and those, again, are always 6 figures, very seldom less than 6 figures, and sometimes 7. In this case, we spent $3 million bringing this together. About half of that is just plain technology. And we think it matters because this place will be completely different next week. And the week after that, it'll be completely different again. And without that expenditure, without that investment, it doesn't have legs like it does with the way we've done it here.
John, the only thing I will say before we let you go, if you're in Elizabeth, do not leave that city before you get some Sorrentino's pizza. That's my closing remarks.
I love that. A tidbit from Mike here. Well, John, thank you so much for joining us. John Carter, Chief Executive Officer at Parker 3D. He was joining us on Zoom there from, of course, the Mills at Jersey Gardens Mall in Elizabeth, New Jersey. We appreciate his time walking us through all that and the beautiful displays there that are over there.